The unexpected savior. The vast expanse of space had long been a source of wonder and terror for the Zorthax. Their crystalline bodies, formed from silicon-based compounds, refracted the light of their dying sun in a kaleidoscope of colors. But even this beauty couldn't mask the desperation that hung over their world like a shroud. High Counselor Zix stood atop the grand spire, her multifaceted eyes scanning the horizon. The once lush forests of crystal trees had withered, their branches drooping under the weight of impending extinction. The atmospheric processors, massive structures that once maintained the delicate balance of their gaseous environment, sputtered and groaned, fighting a losing battle against the inevitable. "How much time do we have left, Tixalor?" Zix asked, her voice a melodic chime that belied her inner turmoil. The chief scientist's crystalline form shimmered with anxiety as he consulted his data crystal. "At current rates of degradation, our atmosphere will become uninhabitable within 2 solar cycles. The core is destabilizing faster than our models predicted. We failed, High Counselor. The Great Archive will be our species' last testament." Zixara's form resonated with a deep, mournful tone. Centuries of technological advancement, a culture that had reached for the stars, all to be undone by the cruel whims of celestial mechanics. Their home planet, caught in the gravitational dance of binary stars, was being torn apart from the inside out. As if the universe itself was mocking their plight, a new star appeared in the sky. But this was no celestial body. It grew larger, brighter, defying the laws of stellar movement. "Tixalor, what is that?" Zix demanded, her tone shifting to one of alarm. The scientist's crystals clinked together in agitation as he directed his instruments skyward. It's a ship of unknown configuration. High Counselor, we're detecting life signs, but like nothing we've ever encountered." Panic rippled through the Zorthax gathered at the base of the grand spire. In all their history, they had never made contact with another intelligent species. To do so now, at the twilight of their civilization, seemed a cosmic jest of the cruelest order. Aboard the United Earth ship Prometheus, Captain Elena Rodriguez squinted at the holographic display of the alien world below. "Dr. Patel, what are we looking at here?" The ship's xenobiologist, Aisha Patel, shook her head in wonder. "It's unlike anything we've ever seen, Captain. The entire ecosystem appears to be silicon-based. Those structures, they're not built, they're grown. And these energy readings, there's intelligence down there, advanced technology. But something's wrong. The planet's core is highly unstable." Rodriguez's face hardened. Humanity had spent centuries reaching for the stars, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a deep-seated need to explore. But in all that time, they had never encountered another sapient species, until now. "Comms, broadcast on all frequencies, all languages we know. Let's make first contact one for the history books. People." On the planet's surface, the message crackled through the Zorthax communication crystals, a jumble of unintelligible sounds that nonetheless carried an unmistakable rhythm of language. Tixalor's crystals vibrated with excitement. "High Counselor, I believe they're attempting to communicate. Our universal translators are struggling, but they're adapting. It's a greeting." Zixara steeled herself. In her darkest moments, she had prepared herself to be the last leader of her people. Now she faced the prospect of being the first to greet an alien species. "Respond," she commanded. Tell them we welcome them in peace, but that they have arrived at a moment of great sorrow for our people." As the message was sent, the alien ship descended through the upper atmosphere, its sleek form a stark contrast to the organic, crystalline structures of the Zorthax world. It came to rest in a clearing near the grand spire, its engines humming with a power that made the very air vibrate. A hatch opened, and out stepped forms that defied Zorthax comprehension. Bipedal, soft-bodied creatures encased in artificial shells of metal and plastic. Their faces were a riot of alien features: 2 eyes, a curious protrusion in the center, and a gash at the bottom that opened and closed as sounds emerged. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, her helmet retracting to reveal her face. She smiled, a gesture that sent ripples of confusion through the gathered Zorthax. "I am Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth ship Prometheus. We come in peace and in the spirit of exploration and friendship." The universal translators on both sides struggled, algorithms racing to decipher syntax and context. But some concepts transcend language. The Zorthax understood the intent, if not every word. Zixera approached, her crystalline form towering over the human delegation. "I am High Counselor Zixera of the Zorthax Unity. We welcome you, travelers from beyond, though you arrive at the end of all things." As the translators improved, the two leaders began to converse in earnest. Zixera explained their plight: the dying world, the failing atmosphere, the dwindling time. With each word, the humans' expressions grew more concerned. Rodriguez turned to her team. "Dr. Patel, what are we dealing with here?" Aisha's fingers flew over her handheld scanner. "It's bad, Captain. Their atmosphere is breaking down at the molecular level. The planet's magnetic field is collapsing. They've got 2 months, tops, before this whole world becomes uninhabitable." The captain's mind raced. Their mission of exploration had just become something far more complex. She faced Zixera, her expression grave. "High Counselor, we may be able to help, but I need to consult with my superiors. What you're facing, it would require resources beyond anything we've ever attempted." Zixera's form shimmered with a mixture of hope and suspicion. "You would help us? An alien species you've just met. Why?" Rodriguez smiled. A gesture the Zorthax were beginning to understand conveyed positive emotions. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because out here, in the vastness of space, all sentient life must stand together. And because, High Counselor, if our situations were reversed, I would hope you would do the same for us." As the human delegation returned to their ship to make their report, Zixera turned to Tixlor. "Can we trust them? Should we trust them? Our entire species' fate could rest on this decision." Tixlor's crystals chimed softly. "High Counselor, we've spent millennia searching the stars for signs of other intelligent life. Now, at our darkest hour, they appear. If that's not a sign of hope, I don't know what is." Zixera gazed up at the alien ship, its form so unlike anything her people had ever created. In its sleek lines and humming power, she saw something her people had almost lost: a future. "Very well," she said, her voice resonating with determination. "We will trust. We will hope. And perhaps together, we will survive." As the Prometheus broke atmosphere to transmit their urgent message to Earth, Captain Rodriguez looked down at the dying crystal world below. Humanity had come to the stars seeking knowledge, adventure, and their place in the cosmic order. They had found something far greater, a chance to prove that compassion and courage could bridge the gulf between worlds. The fate of an entire species now rested in humanity's hands. The greatest rescue mission in history was about to begin, and with it, an adventure that would change the course of 2 civilizations forever. The Great Evacuation. The news of the Zorthax's plight spread through human space like wildfire. Centuries of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe had been answered, but the revelation came with an immense responsibility. The images of the crystalline beings and their dying world captured the imagination and sympathy of billions. In the United Earth Council chamber, holographic representatives from every corner of human-controlled space debated fiercely. Captain Rodriguez stood at the center, her voice passionate as she pleaded her case. "We have the capability. We have the responsibility. If we turn our backs on the Zorthax now, we forfeit our right to call ourselves an advanced civilization." Counselor Xiang, his holographic form flickering with agitation, countered. "The resources required for such an evacuation are staggering. We're talking about moving an entire species. The economic impact alone will be offset by the scientific and cultural exchange. interrupted Dr. Ilara Vosh, Earth's leading xenoanthropologist. Think of what we could learn from a silicon-based life form with technology that rivals or even surpasses our own in some areas. The debate raged for days, but in the end, humanity's better angels prevailed. Operation Crystal Lifeline was greenlit, becoming the most ambitious undertaking in human history. Back on the Zorthak's homeworld, preparations were underway. The Great Archive, a vast repository of their species' knowledge and history, was being compressed and copied into transportable data crystals. Zixera oversaw the process, her form shimmering with a mixture of hope and sorrow. High Counselor Tixlor approached, his crystals clinking anxiously. The human ships have begun to arrive. But there's concern among our people. Many fear this is a trick, that we're walking into enslavement or worse. Zixera sighed, a sound like wind through chimes. I understand their fear, Tixlor, but what choice do we have? We stay and die, or we trust and possibly live. Gather the facet leaders. It's time I addressed our people. As the Zorthak's leadership assembled, human ships of all sizes descended from the sky. Massive colony vessels, their hulls gleaming in the light of the dying sun, settled into low orbit. Smaller shuttles ferried supplies and personnel to the surface, setting up temporary bases with astonishing speed. Captain Rodriguez, now acting as the human liaison, stood beside Zixera as the High Counselor prepared to address her people. The human watched in fascination as Zixera's crystalline form began to resonate, sending out pulses of light and sound that carried her words to every Zorthax on the planet. My people, children of the crystal forests, today we face the greatest challenge in our history. Our world is dying. This we have known. But now we have been offered a chance at survival by beings from beyond the stars. I know many of you fear this change, fear these aliens who are so different from us. But I have looked into their eyes. Yes, they have eyes, strange as they may be. And I have seen compassion, curiosity, and a genuine desire to help. As Zixera spoke, her words were translated and broadcast to the human ships and bases. Rodriguez marveled at the beauty of the Zorthak's language, a symphony of chimes and light pulses that seemed to resonate with the very core of the planet. We have always believed that life is sacred, that knowledge and understanding are the highest pursuits, Zixera continued. Now we have a chance to embrace those ideals on a scale we never imagined. Yes, we will leave our home. Yes, we face an uncertain future, but we face it together, and we face it with new friends who have crossed the gulf of space to offer us hope. A ripple of agreement passed through the assembled Zorthaks, their crystalline bodies shimmering in unison. Even those who harbored doubts couldn't deny the logic of Zixera's words. As the address concluded, Rodriguez stepped forward, her own words translated into pulses of light and sound. People of Zorthax, on behalf of humanity, I want to assure you that we undertake this mission with the utmost respect for your culture and autonomy. Our goal is not to change who you are, but to preserve your species and your incredible legacy. Together, we will find you a new home, and in the process, forge a friendship that will change both our civilizations for the better. As the evacuation began in earnest, challenges arose that tested the ingenuity of both species. The Zorthax's silicon-based biology required special considerations. Dr. Patel worked tirelessly with Tixlor to design stasis pods that would keep the crystalline beings stable during the long journey. Their molecular structure is fascinating. Patel explained to Rodriguez as they oversaw the loading of the first group of Zorthax onto a colony ship. They don't just communicate through sound and light. Their very atoms resonate with information. We're having to rethink our entire approach to data storage and transfer. The Zorthax, for their part, were awestruck by human technology. A group of their engineers, led by the bright young crystal former Lixera, worked alongside the humans, their unique perspectives leading to breakthroughs that improved the efficiency of the evacuation tenfold. It's remarkable. Lixera chimed to Tixlor as they calibrated a gravitational field generator. Their technology is so fluid, adaptable, They changed designs on the fly, improvised solutions I would never have considered. It's chaotic, but brilliant. Tixlor's form sparkled with amusement. Perhaps there's a lesson there, young one. Our crystalline nature has made us value stability and structure. But out here, in the chaos of space, adaptability may be the greater virtue. As days turned to weeks, the operation hit its stride. Millions of Zorthax were carefully transported to the waiting ships, along with samples of their world's unique ecosystem. The humans, true to their word, took painstaking efforts to preserve as much of Zorthax culture and knowledge as possible. But not everything went smoothly. A faction of Zorthax, led by the firebrand Vexicor, began to sow discord. They claimed that the humans had ulterior motives, that this rescue was merely a prelude to experimentation or exploitation. Look at how eager they are to study us, to take samples of our world. Vexicor resonated to a growing crowd of supporters. They speak of friendship, but their eyes betray their true intentions. We are nothing but specimens to them, a curiosity to be examined and discarded. The situation came to a head when Vexicor and his followers attempted to sabotage one of the main evacuation sites. Captain Rodriguez found herself facing down a group of agitated Zorthax, their crystalline forms vibrating with hostile energy. "Please," she said, her translator converting her words into pulses of light. "We understand your fear, but look around you. Your world is breaking apart. The ground beneath your feet grows more unstable by the day. We are your only hope for survival." For a tense moment, it seemed violence was inevitable. Then, unexpectedly, a young Zorthax stepped forward. It was Lixera, the engineer who had worked so closely with the humans. "Vexicor, I've seen these beings up close. I've worked alongside them. They are not perfect. They argue, they make mistakes, they sometimes act in ways I don't understand. But their desire to help us is genuine. They have shown me wonders I never imagined, and offered friendship when they could have simply left us to our fate." Lixera's words seemed to resonate with the crowd. Slowly, the hostile energy dissipated. Vexicor, though still suspicious, stood down. The evacuation continued, but Rodriguez knew that tension still simmered beneath the surface. As the operation entered its final phases, Zixera stood with Rodriguez in the command center of the lead colony ship. Below them, the last groups of Zorthax were being loaded, along with the final data crystals from the Great Archive. "Your people have done the impossible," Zixera chimed softly. "You've saved us from extinction. How can we ever repay such a debt?" Rodriguez smiled, a gesture the Zorthax were learning to interpret as positive. "There's no debt, High Counselor. This is what friends do for each other. Besides, I have a feeling that this is just the beginning of a partnership that will benefit both our peoples." As if to punctuate her words, a tremor shook the ship. On the view screens, they could see massive cracks appearing in the planet's surface, rivers of molten rock breaking through. "It's time," Rodriguez said, her voice tight with urgency. "We need to leave now." With a final, mournful resonance, Zixera gave the order. The great ships of the human fleet, now carrying the hopes and dreams of two civilizations, broke orbit. As they accelerated away, the Zorthax homeworld began its final, cataclysmic death throes. Millions of crystalline beings watched in silence as their world, the crucible of their evolution, and the backdrop of their entire history, crumbled and burned. It was an end, yes, but also a beginning. Humanity had extended its hand in friendship, and the Zorthax had grasped it. As the fleet set course for the long journey to the Zorthax's new home, no one could predict the challenges that lay ahead. But for now, in this moment, two vastly different species had come together in an unprecedented act of compassion and cooperation. The universe, it seemed, would never be the same. A new home, new problems. The journey to the Zorthax's new home took months, even with the advanced propulsion systems of the human fleet. During this time, The massive colony ships became a crucible of cultural exchange and scientific discovery. Humans and Zorthax worked side by side, learning from each other in ways that pushed the boundaries of both species' understanding. Dr. Aisha Patel found herself in a constant state of wonder as she collaborated with Tixlor on bridging the gap between carbon and silicon-based life. It's not just their biology that's different, she explained to Captain Rodriguez during one of their daily briefings. Their entire way of perceiving the universe is alien to us. They don't just see light. They feel it, resonate with it. It's changing everything we thought we knew about sensory perception. Rodriguez nodded, her eyes scanning the latest reports. And how are they adapting to life on the ships? Better than we expected, Patel replied. The environmental systems we designed are working well, but it's more than that. They're evolving, Captain, adapting to space travel in ways we never anticipated. Some of the younger Zorthax are developing crystalline structures that seem to resonate with the ship's systems. Before Rodriguez could respond, an alert chimed. "Captain, to the bridge," came the urgent voice of her XO. "We're approaching the target system." As Rodriguez hurried to the bridge, excitement and tension rippled through the ship. Months of planning, years of searching for a suitable planet, had led to this moment. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a blue-green world hanging in space, its atmosphere shimmering with promise. High Counselor Zixera stood beside Rodriguez, her crystalline form vibrating with anticipation. "It's beautiful," she chimed softly. "But will it truly be able to support us?" Rodriguez squeezed her hand, a gesture of reassurance the Zorthax had come to understand. "We've done every scan, run every simulation. It's not a perfect match for your homeworld, but with some adaptation, it should be able to sustain your people." As the fleet entered orbit, shuttles were dispatched to the surface. The first teams of human and Zorthax scientists touched down on the alien soil, their instruments probing the environment. Initial reports were promising. The atmosphere was breathable for both species with minimal filtration, and the planet's crust contained the necessary minerals for Zorthax sustenance. But as the days passed and more colonists began to settle on the surface, unforeseen challenges arose. The planet's magnetic field, while strong enough to protect from cosmic radiation, played havoc with the Zorthax's natural resonance. Many found themselves disoriented, unable to communicate properly with their crystalline networks. Tixlor worked feverishly with the human scientists to develop a solution. "We need to create a planetary resonance grid," he explained to a joint council of human and Zorthax leaders. "Something to amplify and stabilize our natural frequencies." Lixera, the young engineer who had become a bridge between the two species, chimed in. "What if we adapted the humans' satellite technology? We could create a network of resonator satellites in orbit, linked to ground-based amplifiers." The human engineers were intrigued, but cautious. "The power requirements would be enormous," one pointed out. "And we'd need to ensure it doesn't interfere with our own communication systems." As the technical discussions continued, a more immediate problem presented itself. The planet's ecosystem, while vibrant, was based entirely on carbon biology. The Zorthax found themselves unable to derive sustenance from the native flora and fauna. Dr. Patel stood before a holographic display of the planet's surface, gesturing to vast swaths of land. "We need to terraform," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Not the entire planet. That would be unethical and impractical. But we can create zones where the soil composition is altered to support silicon-based life." The scope of the project was daunting, but the alternative, keeping the entire Zorthax population dependent on artificial nutrition indefinitely, was unthinkable. Work began immediately, with massive machines deployed to carefully alter the chemical composition of designated areas. Months passed, and slowly the new world began to change. In the terraformed zones, strange, glittering growths began to appear. The first silicon-based plants on this carbon world. The Zorthax watched in awe as crystal forests, reminiscent of their lost home, but utterly unique, began to spread across the landscape. But not everyone was pleased with the changes. A group of human environmentalists, led by the fiery activist Dr. Elena Flores, began to protest the terraforming efforts. "We're altering a pristine alien ecosystem," she argued passionately. "Who are we to decide which form of life has priority on this world?" The controversy spread, with debates raging both on the colony world and back in human space. Some humans began to question the wisdom of the entire resettlement project, arguing that too much had been sacrificed for an alien species. Tensions came to a head when a group of protesters sabotaged one of the terraforming stations. The resulting chemical imbalance created a toxic bloom that threatened both human and Zorthax settlements in the area. Captain Rodriguez found herself once again in the role of mediator, standing before a mixed crowd of angry humans and agitated Zorthax. "I understand the fears on both sides," she began, her words translated into shimmering pulses for the Zorthax. "But look at what we've accomplished here. We're not just reshaping a world, we're proving that different forms of life can coexist, can thrive together." She gestured to the horizon, where crystal spires rose alongside terrestrial trees, an impossible melding of silicon and carbon life. "This isn't about choosing one form of life over another. It's about finding balance, about creating a world where both our peoples can flourish. Yes, we're changing this planet, but we're changing ourselves too, evolving together in ways neither of us could have imagined." Her words seemed to resonate with the crowd, but the underlying tensions remained. It was clear that the path forward would not be easy. As the crisis subsided, Zixera approached Rodriguez privately. "You've done so much for us," she chimed softly. "Your people have sacrificed, have faced criticism and danger, all for our sake. The debt we owe." Rodriguez held up a hand, smiling. "There is no debt, High Counselor. We're in this together now. Whatever challenges we face, we'll face them as partners, as friends." Zixera's form shimmered with emotion. "Then as friends, I must warn you. There are rumors among my people, whispers of something approaching from deep space. Our long-range resonance sensors are detecting anomalies." Rodriguez's smile faded, her expression turning serious. "What kind of anomalies?" "We're not sure," Zixera replied, her tone somber. "But whatever it is, it's vast, it's moving fast, and it's headed in this direction." As if on cue, alarms began to blare throughout the colony. Rodriguez's communicator crackled to life, the voice of her XO tight with urgency. "Captain, we're picking up multiple unknown contacts on long-range sensors. They're not responding to hails and their configuration. Ma'am, it doesn't match anything in our databases." Rodriguez and Zixera shared a look of concern. The challenge of building a new home together had been immense, but it paled in comparison to what might be coming. As they hurried to the command center, both leaders knew that the true test of their newfound alliance was about to begin. The stars above the fledgling colony world twinkled innocently, giving no hint of the approaching storm. But in the vast darkness between those points of light, something was moving. Something ancient, powerful, and utterly alien to both humans and Zorthax. The next chapter in their shared history was about to be written, and it promised to be one of fire and transformation. The debt comes due. The command center of New Harmony, as the joint human Zorthax colony had come to be called, buzzed with frantic activity. Holographic displays showed a sea of red markers approaching the system, each representing a ship of unknown origin and immense size. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the storm, barking orders and coordinating with both human and Zorthax personnel. "I want every ship we have in orbit now. Civilian vessels are to begin evacuation procedures to the designated shelters." High Counselor Zixera's crystalline form pulsed with waves of anxiety as she interfaced directly with the Zorthax communication network. "Our long-range resonators are being jammed," she chimed, her usual melodic tones distorted with stress. "Whatever these beings are, they possess technology that interferes with our core functions." Before Rodriguez could respond, A new alert blared. The main view screen flickered, and a face appeared that made the blood drain from every human face in the room. "Impossible," Rodriguez whispered. The face was humanoid, but only barely. Gray skin stretched tight over an elongated skull, black eyes like bottomless pits, and a mouth full of needle-sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was a grating screech that set every nerve on edge. "Humans," the creature hissed. "How amusing to find you here, playing nursemaid to another doomed species." Its black eyes shifted to Zixara, and its mouth twisted into a grotesque approximation of a smile. "Ah, the Zorthax. We wondered where you had scurried off to when we came to claim your world." Zixara's form vibrated with shock. You're responsible for the destabilization of our homeworld." The alien's laughter was like shards of glass scraping against metal. "A simple gravitational weapon, child. Your world was to be our new feeding ground. Imagine our disappointment when we arrived to find it destroyed and your species vanished." Its gaze turned back to Rodriguez. "But now, how convenient. 2 meals for the price of 1. The transmission cut off, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Rodriguez was the first to recover, her mind racing. "The Scourge," she said, her voice tight. "A race we encountered a decade ago on the fringes of our space. We thought we'd driven them back, sealed off that entire sector. You've faced these beings before?" Zixara asked, hope tinging her resonance. Rodriguez nodded grimly. "Fought them to a standstill. But at a terrible cost. They're not just conquerors. They're planet killers, consuming entire biospheres to fuel their ships and sustain their twisted biology." Alarms blared as the first wave of Scourge ships entered the system. The few human warships in orbit moved to intercept, but they were hopelessly outgunned. On the tactical display, red dots blinked out one by one as Earth vessels were swatted aside like insects. "We need to evacuate," Rodriguez said, her heart heavy. "We can't hold them here. We need to get as many people off-world as we can and warn Earth." But Zixara's crystalline form had gone still, a sign of deep concentration among her people. "No," she chimed softly, then with growing strength. "No, we will not run. Not again. Not from the monsters who destroyed our home." The Zorthax leader interfaced with a nearby console, her body pulsing with light as she communicated faster than any verbal language could allow. "Captain, my people have been analyzing the Scourge's energy signatures. Their technology, while advanced, operates on principles we understand. With your permission, we have an idea." As Zixara outlined the plan, Rodriguez's eyes widened. It was audacious, borderline insane, and it just might work. But it would require resources they didn't have, not with the Scourge bearing down on them. "Even if this works," Rodriguez said, "we don't have the firepower to take advantage of it. Our remaining ships are no match for their fleet." A new voice joined the conversation. Dr. Elena Flores, the environmental activist who had opposed the terraforming efforts. "Maybe we don't need ships," she said, her earlier antagonism replaced by grim determination. "The terraforming equipment. We can repurpose it, turn this planet's ecosystem into a weapon." For a moment, the sheer audacity of the plan left everyone speechless. Then, slowly, Rodriguez began to nod. "All right," she said, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "Let's show these bastards what happens when you back humanity and the Zorthax into a corner. Sound general quarters. All personnel, this is not a drill. Operation Crystalline Thunder is now in effect." The next hours were a blur of desperate activity. As the Scourge fleet pushed deeper into the system, the colonists of New Harmony raced against time. Zorthax engineers, led by the brilliant Zixara, worked feverishly to modify the planetary resonance grid. Human scientists, under the direction of Dr. Patel and Dr. Flores, reconfigured terraforming equipment into massive electromagnetic pulse generators. In orbit, the remaining human ships fought a desperate holding action. Captains who had once ferried colonists now found themselves leading suicide runs against scourge dreadnoughts, buying time with their lives for the plan on the surface to work. Rodriguez stood in the command center, coordinating the defense and preparation efforts. Besides her, Zixera's crystalline form pulsed with a combination of grief and determination as reports of casualties, both human and Zorthax, poured in. "We're almost ready," Lixera's voice chimed over the comm. "But Captain, the resonance field won't penetrate their shields at this range. We need them closer." Rodriguez's jaw tightened. "Understood. I'll bring them to us." She opened a channel to the entire colony. "All personnel, this is Captain Rodriguez. In 5 minutes, I want every light, every power source, every piece of technology we have to shut down. Make them think we've given up." As the orders were carried out, darkness fell over New Harmony. From orbit, it must have looked as if the planet itself was dying, going dark in the face of the overwhelming Scourge fleet. The Scourge commander's face appeared on the view screen once more, its needle teeth bared in a triumphant grin. "Surrendering already, humans. How disappointing. I expected more of a fight from the species that dared to challenge us before." Rodriguez stood tall, her voice steady. "We're not surrendering. We're offering you a chance to leave, to never return. This is your only warning." The Scourge commander's laughter was chilling. Bold words from a dead woman. "We will enjoy breaking you, human. All units begin planetary descent. Let the feast begin." As the transmission cut off, Rodriguez allowed herself a grim smile. "That's right, you bastards. Come and get us." The sky above New Harmony filled with Scourge ships, their massive forms blotting out the stars as they descended towards the seemingly defenseless planet. In the command center, tension reached a fever pitch. "They're entering the upper atmosphere," Tixlor reported, his crystalline form vibrating with nervous energy. Rodriguez took a deep breath. "Lixera, Flores, you have a go. Light 'em up." Across the planet's surface, terraforming stations hummed to life, but not with their usual purpose. Instead, they began to emit powerful electromagnetic pulses, calibrated to the exact frequency of the Scourge shields. Simultaneously, the Zorthax activated their modified resonance grid, sending waves of disruptive energy rippling through the atmosphere. The effect was immediate and devastating. Scourge ships, their shields suddenly non-existent, found themselves assaulted by a planet that had come alive with furious energy. Lightning arced between ships, systems overloaded, and the massive vessels began to fall from the sky like wounded behemoths. "It's working." Zixera chimed, her crystalline form glowing with fierce joy. "Their fleet is in disarray." Rodriguez was already moving. "All defense forces, this is your moment. Hit them with everything we've got." The few remaining human ships, joined by hastily armed civilian vessels and Zorthax resonator platforms, tore into the crippled Scourge fleet. On the ground, colonists used repurposed mining equipment and terraforming tools as improvised weapons, bringing down Scourge ships with focused beams of energy or clouds of disruptive nanites. The battle raged for hours, the skies above New Harmony filled with fire and falling debris. But slowly, inevitably, the tide turned. The once mighty Scourge fleet, caught off guard by the combined ingenuity of humanity and the Zorthax, began to crumble. As the last Scourge dreadnought fell, its broken hulk crashing into the silicon forests at the edge of the colony, a ragged cheer went up from every throat, human and Zorthax alike. They had done the impossible. They had stood against the destroyers of worlds and emerged victorious. In the command center, Rodriguez slumped into a chair, exhaustion etched on her face. Zixera's crystalline form pulsed with a soft, soothing light as she approached. "Captain," the Zorthax leader chimed softly, "I believe we can now say that our debt to humanity has been repaid." Rodriguez looked up, a tired smile spreading across her face. "High Counselor, after what we've just been through together, I think we can safely say that all debts are cancelled. This victory belongs to both our peoples. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold, Human and Zorthax stood side by side, marveling at what they had accomplished. The path forward would not be easy. There was damage to repair, wounds to heal, and the ever-present threat that more scourge might come. But in this moment, looking out over the impossible world they had built together, a world where silicon spires rose alongside terrestrial forests, where the laws of biology had been rewritten by sheer determination and cooperation, both species knew one thing for certain: whatever challenges the universe might throw at them, they would face them together. The debt that had brought them together had been settled, but the bond forged in its wake promised to reshape the galaxy in ways neither humanity nor the Zorthax could have imagined. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning. Unimaginable alliance. The days following the Battle of New Harmony, as it came to be known, were a blur of activity. The skies, once filled with the terrifying shapes of scourge ships, now buzzed with salvage crews and repair drones. On the ground, humans and Zorthax worked side by side, clearing debris and rebuilding what had been destroyed. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood atop a hill overlooking the main colony, her eyes taking in the strange beauty of their shared world. Silicon spires glittered alongside terrestrial trees, while in the distance, the twisted hulk of a fallen scourge dreadnought served as a grim reminder of their recent victory. "It's quite a view, isn't it?" The voice belonged to Dr. Elena Flores, the former environmental activist who had played a crucial role in their defense. Rodriguez nodded, a wry smile on her face. "Feels like a lifetime ago that we were arguing about terraforming." Flores chuckled, shaking her head. "Nothing like an alien invasion to put things in perspective. I still have concerns about our impact on this world, but I understand now that change isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's necessary for survival." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of High Counselor Zixera, her crystalline form shimmering in the sunlight. "Captain, Doctor," she chimed in greeting. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," Rodriguez replied. "We were just admiring the view. How are your people holding up?" Zixera's form pulsed with a mixture of emotions: pride, sorrow, determination. "We are resilient. The loss of our homeworld prepared us for hardship, but this victory has given us new purpose. My people speak of New Harmony not just as a refuge, but as a symbol of what's possible when different species work together." As they spoke, a group of young Zorthax glided past, their crystalline bodies interacting with a group of human children. The two species were engaged in some sort of game, the humans laughing as they tried to mimic the light pulses of their alien friends. Flores watched the scene with wonder. "I never imagined I'd see anything like this. Two completely different forms of life, finding common ground, learning from each other." "It's more than that," Zixera chimed softly. "We're evolving. Both of us. Some of our younger generation are developing new crystalline structures, better suited to this world. And we've noticed changes in the human children, too. Increased sensitivity to our resonance frequencies, for one." Rodriguez's eyes widened. "Are you saying we're adapting to each other? Biologically?" Before Zixera could respond, an alert chimed on Rodriguez's communicator. "Captain, to the command center," came the urgent voice of her XO. "We're picking up multiple signals approaching the system." The three leaders shared a look of concern before rushing to the command center. Inside, they found a hive of activity, with human and Zorthax operators working in perfect sync. "Report," Rodriguez barked as she entered. Tixlor, now serving as Joint Chief of Scientific Operations, turned to them, his crystalline form pulsing with excitement rather than fear. "Captain, it's not the scourge. The signals, they're coming from dozens of different species. We're picking up language patterns from all over the galaxy." On the main view screen, a dizzying array of ships began to appear. Some were organic, like massive spaceborne creatures. Others were geometric, defying the laws of physics as humans understood them. And some were familiar. Are those Krulk's ships? Rodriguez asked, disbelief coloring her voice. Indeed, mixed in with the alien armada were the distinctive living ships of the Krulks, the reclusive species that had first discovered the Zorthax so long ago. A transmission cut through the confusion, and a familiar face appeared on the screen. It was Zix, the Krulk's explorer who had first saved the Zorthax. Greetings, New Harmony. Zix's translated voice filled the command center. We come representing the Galactic Council. Your battle against the Scourge has not gone unnoticed. For too long, many species have lived in fear of these destroyers. But you, humans, and Zorthax together, you've shown us that they can be defeated. Another face appeared, this one completely alien, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix. We are the Lumina. It pulsed, ancient enemies of the Scourge. We have watched your two young species with great interest. The cooperation you've shown, the way you've merged your strengths, it is unprecedented in our long history. More transmissions poured in, species after species, each expressing amazement at what had been accomplished on New Harmony. The Galactic Council, it seemed, had been shaken out of its complacency by the actions of humanity and the Zorthax. As the transmissions continued, Rodriguez turned to Zixera and Flores, her mind reeling from the implications. Do you realize what this means? She asked, her voice filled with awe. We're not alone out here. The galaxy is teeming with life, with potential allies. Zixera's form pulsed with joy. More than allies, Captain. I believe we are looking at the birth of a true interstellar community, one that transcends biology, that finds strength in diversity rather than fearing it. Flores nodded, her earlier environmental concerns seeming small in the face of this cosmic revelation. We've taken the first steps on a journey that will reshape the galaxy. The real work is just beginning. Over the next weeks, New Harmony became a hub of galactic diplomacy. Ships from dozens of species landed, their crews marveling at the unique biosphere that had been created. The silicon forests echoed with languages never before heard on this world, while human scientists worked feverishly to update universal translators. In a specially constructed chamber that catered to the needs of wildly different biologies, representatives from across the galaxy gathered. Captain Rodriguez and High Counselor Zixera stood side by side, ready to address this unprecedented assembly. Welcome to New Harmony, Rodriguez began, her words translated into a symphony of sounds, light pulses, and even gravitational waves for the more exotic species. A year ago, we were strangers, two species brought together by chance and necessity. Today, we stand before you as proof that diversity is not a weakness, but our greatest strength. Zixera's crystalline form resonated with agreement. The Scourge believed us weak because we are different. They saw our varied biologies as something to be consumed, destroyed. But here, on this world, we have proven that life, in all its infinite variety, will find a way not just to survive, but to thrive. As they spoke, holographic displays showed scenes from around New Harmony. Human children played alongside young Zorthax, their laughter a universal language. In laboratories, scientists from a dozen species worked together, unlocking the secrets of the universe. And in orbit, a new generation of ships was taking shape, vessels that combined the best of human, Zorthax, and now galactic technology. The threat of the Scourge remains, Rodriguez continued, her voice strong. But we no longer face it alone. Together, we can build a galaxy where all forms of life are valued, where our differences make us stronger, not divided. Zixera's final words resonated through the chamber, translated into 1,000 languages, but carrying a message that needed no translation. On New Harmony, we have learned that the greatest adventures, the most profound discoveries, come when we reach out to those different from ourselves. We invite you all to join us on this journey. The galaxy awaits, and together, there is nothing we cannot achieve. As the assembly erupted in a cacophony of cheers, applause, and various alien expressions of approval, Rodriguez and Sixere shared a look of profound understanding. The debt that had once existed between their peoples had been transformed into something far greater, a bond that promised to reshape the very fabric of galactic civilization. Outside the chamber, the twin suns of New Harmony dipped towards the horizon, casting long shadows across the impossible landscape. Silicon spires glittered alongside terrestrial trees, while overhead, ships of 1,000 designs moved through the darkening sky. It was a scene that defied imagination, a testament to what could be accomplished when different forms of life chose cooperation over conflict. As night fell on New Harmony, the first stars began to appear. But to the inhabitants of this unique world, human, Zorthax, and now representatives from across the galaxy, those distant points of light were no longer unreachable symbols of mystery. They were beacons of possibility, each one promising new adventures, new allies, and new wonders waiting to be discovered. The age of isolation was over. Humanity and the Zorthax, brought together by chance and forged into allies by adversity, had taken their first steps into a larger universe, and the galaxy, it seemed, would never be the same.